Hello, I'm Candy, and welcome to this episode of the Backstage Pass. Today, I have someone very, very special, a guest who has been on the show before, talking all things mental health in the performing arts industry. Welcoming back the absolute legend, Terry Hyde. This conversation is really, really powerful and highlights the importance of raising mental health awareness through performance. Terry has founded a wonderful charity called STEPS. STEPS stands for Support, Training, Education, Performance, Psychotherapy Solutions. And I believe this is going to be life-changing. I think that's enough of a drum roll. It really is such an epic show, absolutely full of value. And how exciting, with the help of this charity, is the future going to be for the performing arts? Let's go. So hello, Terry. I can't believe you are back again after, I think it's been almost a year since the first show that we did. And for anyone who hasn't heard it, you must check it out, all about Terry's journey. And yeah, just thank you so much for coming back.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. At the end of the last podcast, you were starting to talk about something called STEPS, and now it's here. It's reality, and it's very, very exciting. So tell me all about STEPS and how it works.
Well, STEPS is a new charity that I set up a year ago. So I'm the founder and CEO, and STEPS, it's got a double P in it, and it stands for Support, Training, Education, Performance, Psychotherapy, Solutions. And to start with, it's all to do with dance. It's any genre of dance, and it's a mental health support and a number of projects that we are wanting to do. We do need funding for most of them. The first one is to get at least one mental health first aider in every dance school in the UK.
That'd be amazing.
And we've already organising negotiations with Transpire Training, who are mental health first aid England trainers, to be able to bring that to fruition. That's the first thing. The second thing is to be able to have counselling sessions, free or at least reduced fee counselling sessions for dancers, dance teachers, in fact, anyone in the dance world. And thirdly, what I'm already doing previously, as you know, with Counselling for Dancers, my own business, is mental health self-care workshops. So they will go around schools, so vocational schools, age 13 and upwards, and also dance companies. Again, any genre. So that's the basis to start with. I've already got the Acosta Dance Academy on board, which is brilliant.
Yes.
In fact, this coming Friday, I'm doing the first workshop for their students. We're also the referral for any one-to-one therapy that may happen to be needed by the students and the faculty as well. So that's happening starting this Friday. Also, the founder of Ballet Nights has asked me to present workshops at their intensive in January. I know that seems far away, but actually where we are
I'll be here before you know it.
We're not that far away. Yeah, I saw Christmas decorations in the supermarket the other day.
Oh, I know. Can't believe it.
We'll be seeing Easter stuff soon.
I know.
So that's the basis of it. We do need funding. If you go to the website, our website, stepps, stepps.charity, you will see details of what I've been speaking about, but also a fundraising a fundraising button for you to donate should anyone wish to do so and help us on our way.
That's really incredible. And what happens in these workshops that you do?
Well, as you know, because you were present at one of them, Move It 2 years ago, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah.
We start talking about anxiety, because I think that's the basis of everything that comes along for a professional performer and for a student performer. It's the anxiety. Depression will follow after that, but the anxiety is the basis of it. And to explain what anxiety is, how it starts, and actually how to get rid of it, because it's a thought. That's what creates it. And it's a negative thought that's triggered by something in the past. So we work through that. We work through how to deal with it. Some techniques of either changing thought, or some techniques, if you're in a panic attack, of breathing, and other means to be able to just stop it before it gets any worse. And to be able to understand that if you actually sit through it, 3 minutes later, it will be gone.
Exactly. I mean, it's so powerful, isn't it?
Yes. And if people nowadays will have a panic attack, and then it just builds up, because the feelings in the body match the thought then matches the body, and it's just a complete cycle of events that goes through the head, saying, I'm feeling like this, and therefore I am like that. When in fact, if you just sit, because you're going into fight and flight mode, but there's nothing to run away from except your own thoughts, and there's nothing to fight. So if you just sit and stay calm and just breathe, it will go away, because there's no triggers anymore. So these are the sort of things that we go through, and there's breakout groups as well, discussing the difference between anxiety and excitement, those words, but the feelings are going to be the same.
Yeah.
So it's discussing that and working through their own experiences. They don't have to disclose anything, but it's just very simple talks. We then go through mindset and how the mind creates our reality by the way that we think. Go through that. And then using visualizations to help with injuries, to help with the way that we think, and to help, interestingly, with technique. So if there are any people in the participants that want to talk about something they're having difficulty within a technique or within a solo that they have to do, then we can use the visualization technique, which has been going around probably 20 odd years, that came from the athletics and sports people in the US. The research has shown that whatever you're thinking, so in the brain they wired the brain up, and they wired the muscles up of the athletes, and they would visualize, say for instance, their 100 meters, 100 yards. That's their run, the 100 meters. And they would go through the visualization of them actually doing it. So not them looking at themselves doing it, them doing it, but without moving anything. They're just sitting there going through that visualization of how they wanted it to be. That's the way that they wanted it. And the research showed that the signals came from the brain to the muscles as if they were actually doing it. And so this is what I'm trying to bring into dance companies and dance schools, so that you don't have to do it over and over again. And Candy, you remember, one more time, please. One more time, please. And it's never once, is it? It's like a half a dozen times. Mm-hmm. You have to do it over and over again. And then, of course, what happens when you get doing it over and over again? You get tired. Mm. What happens after tiredness?
Injury.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a whole process there that will create a totally different atmosphere in the rehearsal room or in the studio. if you're doing class. And it also helps the neurodiverse spectrum people, those on the neurodiverse. But I want to say that everyone in the world is on the neurodiverse spectrum to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
And so by enabling them to do it in a calmer way, the overwhelm won't be there.
Exactly. And I think that that's really incredible, because as dancers, we are doers. We do and we do and we do again and again and again. And so what these workshops are doing is getting them to sit and be really present. Just take a moment to sort of absorb their feelings, to really, really connect with what they're feeling and what they want to achieve. And it does, it's sort of that brain body congruent thing that happens, and then they just feel like they're ready to go. I remember when I was a dancer just going, do it again, do it again, do it again, spiraling. But this gets you to just sit and calm, and the importance of rest. It's something that we were never taught, but it is so important to just, be with yourself.
Yes. And what I build into the workshop, to start with, after I do my introduction of myself, I then do a 5-minute meditation with the participants. And I'm trying to get the schools and the dance companies, whether the dance companies will do this, but the individual dancers may do this. But the schools have actually started taking it on to do the first class of the day, a 5-minute meditation. It can be a breathing meditation. It's guided anyway, so they need to find something that they're happy to listen with for 5 minutes as a guided meditation.
It's wonderful.
The one that I do is just a breathing meditation. It's being aware of your breath, counting your breath, and just going through that process where you distract your mind from all the busyness as much as you can, because it's the raison d'etre of the mind is just to keep going, but to count. So that's your distraction. And if you, whilst counting your breath, then get distracted. Oh, what did I get for lunch? I can't remember. What am I doing tonight? You just bring it back. You start counting again. So you're not annoyed at, I'm distracted. You say, oh, okay, well, look, leave me alone for a moment. I'm going back to counting. So these are the thoughts in the head to be able to bring you back to the breath count for the meditation. And as I say, 5 minutes. 5 minutes out of the whole day, whether it's a vocational school or whether it's a dance company rehearsals and class, etc. It's nothing, but it sets you up for the day. I did this at one of the teachers' workshops that I do. And one of the teachers said, yes, but I want my students to be up, ready, go, ready to do, And I said, what's the first exercise in a ballet class?
Exactly, it's pliés.
Of course, it's pliés. Yeah. You want to be ready, up and go for your pliés? No, you don't.
You just be like that at the bar. Panic.
That's right.
Yeah. So what drove you to creating Stepps?
Well, I'm not getting any younger, and it's only me in the counselling for dancers, and I thought I need to bring other people in to do what I'm doing and to train them in the way of the dance world. And I thought, well, the best way of doing that is getting dancers or dance teachers who are transitioning from the profession or have left the profession and are interested in mental health, have an interest in mental health, whether they've suffered themselves or whether they've seen suffering, but are interested to help. So I'm having I've got 2 ex-dancers at the moment who are fully qualified. I've got 2 more who are ready next September. Haven't I, Candy?
Yes.
And so that'll make 4. Someone today contacted me who I'm not sure whether they were a performer, but they've done 30 years, I think, of being a trained counsellor and psychotherapist for the performing arts, and they were interested in what we're doing. So we may have another one there. And it's just now needing the funding for it. Some of them are willing to work as a locum, I suppose you could say, for no charge. So we already have a facility for some free sessions for those that require sessions but can't afford it. And for the workshops, some of the counsellors have already said, "Oh, I'd love to learn what to do in the workshops and your method and what you're doing." So I'm bringing those in to participate and be watching the learn, and then I can take a step back.
Definitely, yeah. Get a break.
That's the reason why I've been doing. Yeah, because over lockdown for a few years after that, I was doing 1,000 sessions a year, which is, if you work it out, maybe not for a person how many hours you work, but it's a great strain. It's so the BACP, the British Association for Counselling Psychotherapy, suggests no more than 20 sessions a week. But I was doing a bit more than that, and I was starting to get tired.
Yeah.
It was taking its toll. So I had to cut back. And I thought, I can't, keep doing this. What can I do? And so the app came in first. That was during lockdown. I built up an app to give exercises, visualizations, meditations, and articles, and people talking about their own mental health. And that went well. That has closed now, but it's being transferred to a course platform. So it's going to be in a form of a course, but it's exactly the same thing as an app. And then people still kept coming, and I thought, no, I've got to bring something out. And that's when the idea of the charity came in, to bring in people and also get funding to spread the word, as it were.
Yeah. And it's good as well, because the more people that we have supporting this, and the importance of mental health and the importance of dancers having therapy, if it's just you, it's going to be harder. But if you've got this team of people, we're just going, look how many people we have. Look how big this is actually. And all the dancers that have suffered coming forwards going, this is important. We need to make this change. When it's an army of people, it can't be ignored.
That's right. That's right. So we need to build up our following. So we do have, as you say, dancers that have suffered and said, yes, we really do need this, especially ex-dancers. And I say, I've got, I won't say her name, but she is 76, well-known ballerina, from the US, as a client, a therapy client. And so she is still suffering from, what happened to her during the time that she was a professional dancer.
Mm.
And so it just doesn't stop when you transition out of performing arts. It's still there because it's inbred. I started ballet when I was 6 years old. And I think you were about the same age, were you, or 3 or something?
Yeah, I was 3 when I started. Yeah.
Yeah. So from that period of time right up and through, we train in fear, because our fear is not passing the exams, not pleasing the teacher. And then we go up into the profession or the vocational school, not pleasing the principal or artistic director of the school. And then you go into a company or into a show, and we're people pleasing all the time, and we're fearful. And so we're always apologizing. So if you recognize it in yourself, if you're always apologizing, or people say to you, why do you keep saying sorry when you haven't, there's nothing wrong? But that's what we do. We apologize. We aim for perfection, and there is no perfection. And so creating a perfectionism, is a terrible thing. And so to be able to have a principal, an artistic director, or a dance management who are supportive, that is so important. And also realize that we all have different ways of learning. And it's not necessarily the way that the choreographer or the teacher have learnt themselves.
Yeah.
There's so many different aspects of retraining teachers, and it's happening now, but there's still the old school there. And so the fear is still built in, even if it's self-imposed, because you want to make sure that you please, you want to get into the company, you want to get into the school, you want another year at the vocational school. There is still that fear. And the understanding is there's no need to have fear. You just have to do as best you can. And when you get to vocational school or into a dance company or into a show, you know that there's thousands of other dancers that can replace you. That is the built-in fear, because we are told when we're at the ballet school, the dance school, at the musical theatre school, it's a tough life. You've got to be tough.
Yeah.
And so there is that fear. I'm not being tough enough on myself. So a lot of it is self-imposed. There is a fear of showing weakness. You can't talk about your mental health because that's a sign of weakness. You can't talk about an injury because that shows a sign of weakness, and therefore you work through injuries and you're just going to get worse. And that's where a lot of dropout happens, especially in vocational schools.
Yeah.
They're injured so badly they cannot continue.
Yeah, exactly.
And they think they're famous because of that.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that, just wondering here, if it starts at the top. So you've got your directors and you've got your main dance teachers. And because that they have suffered that all of their career, that they are then projecting how they felt and possibly still feel into the kids, so that the fear being transferred onto the students is actually coming from them.
You're right. You're right. It is a projection of their own issues. And even if it's a nice supportive teacher, if they have had a problem that morning, either getting to work or at home, they could project that issue onto the students in exactly the same way. And when I think the expression is, "Oh, you must have got out the wrong side of the bed," because you were suddenly angry, and it's not your personality to be suddenly angry, and that's the projection. So yes. It can be from both a minor thing, such as you got out the wrong side of the bed, or you just had 20 or 30 years of being bullied and abused by your teachers or your artistic directors or choreographers or whoever. So yeah, it works that way. And as you know, in therapy, we, the therapists, have to be mindful of what we're bringing into the therapy session as a counter-transference. The transference is from the patient or therapy client, what they're bringing in, and we have to be careful of what we bring into a session if the client patient brings up an issue that triggers us.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful. We have to set that aside and then take it to our own supervision.
And I think dance teachers should do the same, don't you think?
Quite right.
Absolutely. Because even like you were saying, if someone's really bubbly, but they're projecting something onto you. I just think back to my days when I was at the Royal Ballet School, and just in the room, in the space, it felt tense because it was being projected out there onto everybody. No words were being said, but it was just this feeling, this energy. And I can almost feel it just thinking about it. So it was massively impactful. And I'd imagine it's the same for most, especially ballet dancers, still today.
It is. I've got an old black and white video, but it was a tape that the BBC sent me because Dame Lynette de Valois, Madam's 100th birthday was many, many years ago. And as they did a program about it, and I kept seeing clips of the Royal Ballet School, and I thought, oh, that's me there. Oh, they're in there. So I contacted the the BBC about it, and they said, "Oh, we can give you the tape of the whole program," because it was commissioned. And I remember it was Lord Snowdon that came along. He was commissioned to do it and film it, and it was never shown. They said, "We'll give you this tape, but it must never be shown in public." So I've got it, and I can show it when I'm doing a workshop or a talk, just the clips, and looking at that and watching it. So Madam's doing a class. The fear on all of those girls' faces,
yeah,
is palpable, and she names people. Where's that girl? Where's that girl? Oh yes, it's you. You. And she started watching her. Sorry, that was my bad Irish madam accent. That's what she sounded like. But anyway, the reason I got it was there was a few minutes of her rehearsing me as the gentleman with the rope in A Rake's Progress. And she was insistent, because she choreographed A Rake's Progress, she was insistent that I was doing it wrong. And she kept sort of, not shouting at me, but raising her voice. And you could see, although it was filmed from the side, you could see the fear in my face and in my body. So there's no relaxation. There's no sort of performance of being able to do that. And so that is, a visual example of the fear that she, we had rather, the fear that we had whenever she was taking class or taking rehearsals.
Yeah, I have to ask you a question. So taking you back to your days as a dancer, when you were doing class with somebody else, compared to with Madam's class, were you having fun, or was it always about how well you did?
No, we were having fun. Donald Britton was brilliant with that. And René Bon, a French one, zack, 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 zack. Like the zack, zack was all slapping his arms or his thighs and getting you to turn out and that sort of thing. And so that was the perfectionist one. Mira Zolan was a really weird guy. We would be at the bar, and then he'd do his pliés, and then he'd say, "Right, do forward roll after that."
Well, that's adding some fun to it, I guess.
I don't think it was fun. It was really weird. And then I think we were doing something at the bar, and then we'd have to go from the bar, like tondus or something like that, and we do chassé pas de bourrée into the centre and do pirouettes, and then chassé pas de bourrée back to the bar and continue. It made it interesting, I suppose, but it's totally sort of out of order. But yes, Donald Britton was brilliant, and because he did the similar roles to those which he thought I would be doing, the character roles. He mentored me even after I went into the company, the Royal Ballet Company. And so a couple of years in to the Royal Ballet, he contacted me and said, "You need to go into Festival Ballet, Anderson's Festival Ballet. That's now called English National Ballet." And I said, "Why?" He said, there's a lot of character work for you in there. And he said, "I know that the guy, Raymond Lewis, is leaving." And he was even shorter than me. I'm only 5'5", and he was even shorter than me. He did the character work. So I went along and did a class, and Beryl saw the class, Dame Beryl Gray saw the class, and after the class, the ballet master said, "Okay, well, what can you do in character work?" And I did the Three Ivans from, Sleeping Beauty, and said, "Yeah, okay. It's open for you if you want the job." So that was all I did, was a class and just a bit of character work, a bit of Russian dancing.
Amazing.
Went there, and after a year I was made a soloist. I was doing principal roles, and that was really enjoyable. And I think Beryl Gray had a really nice way about her. I'm not sure some of the things that the girls were telling me about the way she treated them, but she was okay with the guys. And the same in the Royal Ballet. We had some lovely people supporting us. John Field was the artistic director then. And the others, the ballet management, were really supportive. There were some tears mostly from the girls and occasionally from the guys, but it doesn't seem the same way that some of the companies are run now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the artistic directors that are coming up now have been in the companies, the main companies, and have done business management courses and things like that. Back then, if you had a big name, then they'd make you an artistic director. And so the board of trustees would be dazzled by the charisma of the interviewee. And if they got a big name, then they're more likely to take them because then they attract money. And that's the basis of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're a good man management or you're a good at business. It just means you're a big name. And so some of them that are now leaving, that's what they were, and the complaints that are coming out. And of course you're fearful of making a complaint because then you're blacklisted wherever you go, allegedly.
Gosh. Yeah.
God, I think we got through a lot there, didn't we?
So yeah, I know. I was just like reflecting back. But it does make you go back. You know, when I speak to you, I do think back to my career and, you know, things that may have been better, you know, things that could have been worse, things that could have been better. But I think, you know, being happy and feeling that support, it's bound to make you a better dancer. It's bound to. If you're feeling the fear, you make mistakes, you know.
Yeah, but are you going to be a better person? That's the thing. You know, when you look at the strict Eastern European ways, I think it came from the USSR, the training there, the training in China as well, the old school way of training there. They would break them down and then build them up. And that is what one of the artistic directors actually said, that they break them down and then build them up the way that they want to. But what they've got is an aesthetically artistic, pleasing dancer, but is soulless because they've knocked the soul out of them by the way that they've trained them. So when you say it makes you a better dancer, but does it make you a better human being? And that's what Stepps is wanting to do, is to support and find out the solutions and educate the faculty and educate the dancers as how they can still be a human being as well as a dancer. They're a human being first. They're not a robot as aesthetically pleasing robot.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to sort of do a gentle challenge on that. Yes, you would become a better dancer, but at what expense?
Exactly, because it's not about just how you are on stage. It's every single element that goes into that as well, and how you're feeling off stage projects onto the stage, and you know, vice versa. I think it's really important. Going back to the steps in a very big way, what is the aim or mission, the big plan?
I suppose the big plan is, as I mentioned about the mental health first aid, is to get at least one mental health first aid in each school. And, you know, freelance dancers and freelance dance teachers can also be part and be trained for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
It really is to, you know, what STEP stands for, as in support, training, education, performance, psychotherapy solutions. The whole of that is to support the UK's dance world in whichever way it can.
So would it be that you have like an office? I'm just trying to picture an office in each of the dance schools where you've got someone who is there so that you can have like book an appointment to see them during the day in between classes. I'm just trying to picture how it could work in the future.
I think with the vocational schools, the bigger vocational schools already have that. There's only 2 of the main ballet vocational schools that has an dancer who is a trained counsellor. And that is what is needed, is to have the mental health support from ex-professionals. or at least X up to the point of vocational school. So at least they completed that, so they know what it was like to go through school. And so, having trained counsellors there. Now, whether STEPS is going to supply them or just be a referral system, if they can't afford a full-timer.
Yeah.
All of these therapy sessions are going to have to be online, unless that individual counsellor is near to the vocational school. But there's also all of the musical theatre schools. They've all got dance within them. So it's not just the vocational ballet schools or contemporary dance schools. It is that. So it would be good to have at least one counsellor there, but everything's done online now. So why have one in each school when you can use the referral system, rather than, if you don't have a counsellor in your school, they use a local agency or a local counsellor to do it. But what is a local counsellor, however good they may be to the general population? They don't understand what we went through, either schooling or performing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about the freelance dancers as well, and how, trying to survive in that injury and always being, constant auditions, constant knockbacks. We hear about, when they get a job, but there's so many times when they're turned away time and time again, the impact that it has on them. So having a referral system, having somebody that they can go to, it'd just be magic for them.
Yes, I think the freelancers are more important because they don't have the funds necessarily to pay for that. Whereas in the big companies, it's all paid for. They just go along to strength and conditioning coach, Pilates, all of these, they're all paid for. And therefore they don't have to fund it out of their salary. But whereas freelancers don't have that facility. And so that would be very important in what STEPS is doing.
Yeah, agreed. I think it would be so good. I keep thinking of a few people that I know, and, they hold themselves wrapped up with the I'm fine. I definitely was one of those back in the day. And it's not actually healthy for you to be so full of defenses, when you just, because you are being affected by things and you're just brushing it under the carpet, masking, if you like. But it just feels to me like there's just something waiting to be triggered. So if they could just have moments frequently where they can really sit with how they're actually feeling, because it bites you on the ass if you don't do it. I learned the hard way.
And the masking, as you said, is, the I'm all right, is that fear of showing a weakness. And in my workshops, whether they are for students, professional dancers, or for faculty, I say you don't have to be mentally ill to come and see me.
Exactly.
That is the aspect. Oh, I'm not ill enough to have therapy. Well, therapy is just talking about issues. You don't have to be mentally ill. You don't have to have panic attacks all the time. Oh, yes, do come along if you've got panic attacks all the time. But, there's something going on in your life and you're not quite sure how to deal with it. And you don't want to tell family or close friends. And in fact, close friends will probably say, I think you need to see someone professional. And so by coming along, just talking about it, you actually, a lot of the time, you will answer your own questions. Your questions, the unanswered questions that are in your head. So just talking about it, people will think, oh, how weird is that? But it works.
Yes.
And then the therapist can sort of guide you. The therapists don't and should not give advice. And so it is guiding the client, a therapy client or patient, to perhaps think in a different way.
Yes.
And you used that wonderful word, wonder. I'm wondering if, and then you put that to to a client, and then they would then think of a way around it for themselves. It's no good just listing things to do for a client, to say, right, you do this, do this, do this, do this, and this. If they don't want to do it, they won't do it. But when they find out the solutions for themselves, that is the best way of learning.
Absolutely.
Because they will do that because, I came up with that idea. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's so right. And, when you said about how, you don't have to be ill to go to therapy, or people saying, I'm not ill enough. Yeah, I think that it's really important for people to be aware that therapy isn't something that you do when you're feeling really bad. It can be something that you're doing when you're just not feeling quite yourself, or even if you're feeling fine, but you just need to be staying like that. You need to have someone to just go, this is how my week's been, put it onto you, done that, spoke about that, and leave. Someone who is external from your family, your friends. It's great.
And the other thing is I get the clients and the patients to do a therapy journal so that they register it. I don't mind them writing during the session as well. They don't have to wait until afterwards, because otherwise they'll probably forget what it was that we're going to say, or in the journal. And the other thing is daily journaling as well. Is at least 3 things you're grateful for. Because we're always, the natural thing for the human is to defer into negative. So we default each time into negative in any way of thinking. When something is done really well, say that in their heads they will say, "Oh, that's not bad." Not bad is such a negative thing that we all say.
Yeah, because your brain is recognizing the bad, isn't it, that you say?
That's right, yes. So the brain doesn't recognize the negative words as in not. So it's like, don't forget your keys. So the don't disappears. The brain doesn't recognize it, and all you've got is forget your keys. Rather than remember your keys.
Yes.
Because you're being told remember. So these are the things I talk about in the workshops, I talk about in therapy sessions as well, to try and get people to change the way they say things about themselves. It's like I mentioned earlier about apologizing all the time. Sorry. Low self-esteem. Sorry. It's what's happened in the past that's created that. So, I for instance, recently, over last week, this client came back to me, and unfortunately she'd gone all the way back to where we were like 2 years before, because a similar situation happened to her, and so therefore she was triggered by it and then reverted to childhood and her reactions. So she was never good enough to her parents, never good enough. And so she was always apologizing, even for things that she didn't do. And so that's what I was thinking when I said about apologizing. And so the triggers come back from either throughout childhood or an incident in childhood, or if you're an adult, it may have been one traumatic event in your adulthood that caused the trigger now. And, if it's in childhood, then you're just going to get an avalanche. You're going to get the snowball effect of all the little things that have happened in your childhood and all the events that have got nothing to do with the childhood but has triggered you. And it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And then you get the avalanche, which is what people call a breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, we're so delicate in a way, and we're so complicated. It's complex up in here in your mind, so to unravel it, to just talk about what's really going on and the things that happened when you were younger. I've learned just how important that really is. And you carry things all the way through, like you said. And I just think what you're doing is incredible, because of all of those dancers that are going to feel, I've got somebody that I can talk to, almost getting emotional, got someone I can talk to about all of the things that really bothered me. I can actually get it off my chest to somebody who fully understands and empathizes with my situation. And that's what you're doing.
Thank you.
And it's really wonderful. Going back to a few things that we spoke about prior to this recording, you mentioned something about Strictly Come Dancing. Mm-hmm. I need to know more about that. There was a dispute, wasn't there, with somebody who couldn't be in it. So would you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the dancers left because he was accused of abusive behaviour, mm-hmm. and then when the second dancer was actually sacked, that came out in the news at the weekend. I think it was in July. On Monday, I was contacted by the Times. They interviewed me on that Monday. Their news item, so it was in Times 2 on Tuesday, and it was about abusive behaviour and teaching methods and things like that, to do with Strictly. Tuesday, Times Online contacted me and interviewed me, which went out on Thursday. Also, ITV's This Morning programme, they were trying to sort out me going up to London because I live on the Isle of Wight, for Wednesday. And they eventually said, no, we'll do it like we're doing now, online, on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And that was on Wednesday morning. On Wednesday afternoon, I was contacted by the BBC Radio Solent, who's just over the water from me in Southampton. So I went in on Thursday. That's right. I went in on a Thursday. Thursday afternoon also, Trish Goddard's producer contacted me, and I was on her programme on Saturday. And it was quite a hectic week for me.
Yes, it sounds it. What was happening? What was the content of it, if you're allowed to go into it?
Oh, the content on the BBC one was the fact that the BBC production company said that they were going to bring in chaperones for the rehearsals, so that they keep an eye. They've got a witness there, as it were. And I said on This Morning programme for the ITV This Morning, I don't agree with that. I think it's root and branch is needed rather than a plaster over a big gash. It's not going to work. It might work superficially, but they need to get down to what are the training methods. And I explained about training methods and how any ex-army, any athlete or sports person that has been on there as a celebrity work well because they're used to that sort of training. But when you get someone coming from Love Island or any other non-performing, well, even if they're newsreaders, they didn't and haven't had, unless they went through dance school, that sort of training and that intensity that is needed in rehearsals. And that's where emotions rise up. And that's where the frustration of the professional dancers then come in, and they then project that onto those celebrities. And so those are the themes all the way through those interviews with the different media companies.
Gosh. I mean, when you watch that show, you just think about all the glitz and glamour and how fabulous it is. But there's so much that goes into the rehearsals. And, I didn't even think about that. But of course, if they're not used to that and they're being shoved into that, they're already nervous. There's already emotions running high. And then there's that extreme pressure put onto them. It's really, really challenging. There needs to be someone that can sort of prepare you for that, but in a not, treat them the same as the professional dancers. They need something slightly different. And I thought that it was about having fun on that show and not pushing them to their absolute limits. I mean, in the beginning, it was about having fun.
Yeah. And that's, that is some of the things that I talk about in the workshop, but also especially in therapy sessions. do you have fun performing? Do you have fun? And when you look back at the 6-year-old, etc., when they were training, that's when the fun was there. And as soon as you got to 11 and you went to vocational school, that's when it disappeared. This is real.
11 for the fun to disappear. That's really upsetting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't go to the upper school until I was 16, so I guess you could say I was still having fun until that point. But I did, especially for the first year, the fun wasn't there because I felt so pressured and overwhelmed by how much we were in the studio and how hard we had to work. Okay, that is a dancer's career. That is normal, but the added pressure and the fear put onto you by the teachers, that's the bit that just needs to ease up. But there are teachers out there that are making a big difference, and
oh yes, definitely.
There's definitely big changes happening. It's just going to take some time.
But when you say what you said just now about the pressure and the hours, as you know, we work at the Royal Ballet School 6 days a week, and because we were students at the Royal Ballet School, and I think you probably did the same, we did extra work with the opera and ballet. So we had performances in the evening as well at school, and we still had 9 o'clock in the morning, whereas the professionals, according to equity, you need 12-hour break. So if Sleeping Beauty went down at 10:30, you couldn't do a class before 10:30. We as students had to go in at 9 o'clock and do class. And so it was tougher. It builds up the stamina, and it also builds up the knowledge of how we work as professionals. And this is what you need to do. And these are the hours you need to work.
Yeah. How do you think that, going maybe a few years in time, how different do you think that everything is going to be in the industry? How it's going to feel the relationship between the dance teachers and the students specifically?
Slowly, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a generation before we get what we would like to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take that long. It would be nice to be quicker, and Steps is out there in front, pushing, advocating for it, and that may bring in changes faster than a generation, because there are already some teachers and some artistic directors that are working brilliantly and supporting their dancers.
It's fantastic. Terry, is there anything else you want to add to our show today?
You've got the website address.
I'm going to put everything into the show notes so everybody can search, donate. Let's make this thing huge.
Yes, let's get this thing off the ground.
Yes.
No, it's not a thing. It's a vehicle to support dancers' mental health.
Absolutely. It's just something that everyone talks about now, and there's so much awareness, but there needs to be more action, and you are definitely one of the main drivers for that. So Terry, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for coming back. I love listening to you. I love talking with you. I love going on a journey back to where I was comparing to how I am now. And it's an honor to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Candy.
Thank you. A big, big thank you to Terry for being so incredibly insightful. I am really, really excited to see how the industry evolves with the help of Steps. Please do check out the charity. The website is quite simply stepps.charity, and I have put it in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more or even become a part of this amazing charity, email stepps.charity@gmail.com. Again, I've put this into the show notes. A moment to pause, as this year seems to have vanished, don't you think? I hope that everyone enjoys this Christmas. I know that it can be quite triggering for many. So look after yourself and do something to end the year that makes you truly, truly happy. Merry Christmas.